J.D. Vance, the junior senator from the great state of Ohio, is a man who embodies the spirit of the American heartland. Born and raised in the Rust Belt town of Middletown, Ohio, Vance's upbringing was far from privileged. He witnessed firsthand the struggles of working-class Americans, the decline of American manufacturing, and the social decay that ravaged his community. But J.D. Vance is not one to succumb to despair. He enlisted in the United States Marine Corps, serving his country with honor and distinction. Vance's military service instilled in him the values of duty, discipline, and patriotism, values that would later define his political career. After his time in uniform, Vance pursued higher education, ultimately graduating from Yale Law School. It was during this period that he penned his seminal work, Hillbilly Elegy. This poignant memoir shed light on the plight of the white working class in America, resonating with millions and catapulting Vance into the national spotlight. Through his personal story, Vance gave a voice to a forgotten America, an America that felt left behind by the political elite, an America hungry for change. Little did he know that his journey from the hills of Appalachia to the hallowed halls of Yale would be just the beginning of a remarkable ascent in American politics. Hillbilly Elegy struck a chord with the American public, becoming an instant New York Times bestseller. It transcended political divides, sparking conversations about class, culture, and the American dream. Vance's insightful analysis and authentic voice resonated particularly strongly with conservatives who saw in him a champion for the forgotten man. His newfound platform gave him a voice on the national stage. He became a sought-after commentator on cable news, offering his perspectives on the issues facing the country. Vance's sharp intellect, his ability to connect with everyday Americans, and his unwavering commitment to conservative principles made him a rising star in the Republican Party. In 2022, Vance heeded the call to serve his country once again, this time in the political arena. He entered the crowded Republican primary for the U.S. Senate seat in Ohio. His message of economic populism, cultural conservatism, and a strong America First agenda resonated with Ohio voters. Vance's victory in the primary and subsequently the general election sent shockwaves through the political establishment. His election, along with a wave of other outsider candidates, signaled a changing tide in American politics. The Republican Party was embracing a new generation of leaders who were unafraid to challenge the status quo, leaders who were ready to fight for the American worker, leaders like J.D. Vance. The Conservative Political Action Conference, better known as CPAC, has long been the premier gathering of conservative activists, thought leaders, and elected officials. Each year, thousands descend upon Washington, D.C. to discuss the pressing issues of the day, strategize for the future, and rally around shared conservative principles. CPAC 2025 was shaping up to be one of the most consequential in recent memory. With the 2026 midterm elections looming and the Republican Party eager to regain control of Congress, there was a palpable sense of urgency in the air. The stakes were high, and the conservative movement was looking for a leader to articulate their vision for the future of America. Enter J.D. Vance. As the keynote speaker on the first day of the conference, all eyes were on the junior senator from Ohio. Vance, known for his fiery rhetoric and his ability to connect with the conservative base, did not disappoint. He took to the stage to thunderous applause, ready to deliver a message that would reverberate throughout the halls of CPAC and beyond. His speech, delivered with his trademark blend of passion and intellect, touched upon the core issues animating the conservative movement: economic nationalism, border security, cultural conservatism, and a strong stance against China. Vance's words were a rallying cry for a movement eager to reclaim its footing and chart a new course for America. Section 4. Economic Nationalism, Bringing Jobs Back Home. One of the central themes of Vance's CPAC address was the need for a revitalized American economy, one that put American workers first. He railed against the decades of globalization and free trade policies that he argued had hollowed out the American middle class and shipped millions of jobs overseas. For too long, Vance boomed, our leaders have pursued policies that have benefited multinational corporations and the global elite at the expense of the American worker. He decried the closure of factories across the heartland, the loss of good-paying manufacturing jobs, and the decline of once thriving communities. Vance's solution? Economic nationalism. He called for a return to policies that protect American jobs and American industries. He advocated for tariffs on goods from China and other countries that engage in unfair trade practices. Vance argued that it was time for America to put its own interests first and rebuild its industrial base. "We need to make things in America again," Vance declared. His message resonated deeply with the CPAC audience, many of whom had witnessed the devastating effects of globalization firsthand in their own communities. Vance's call for economic nationalism was a breath of fresh air for those who felt left behind by the global economy. It was a promise to fight for the forgotten man, to bring back jobs and to restore the American dream. Section 5. Securing the border, securing the nation. From economic anxieties, Vance pivoted to another issue weighing heavily on the minds of conservatives: illegal immigration. He painted a dire picture of the situation at the southern border, describing it as an invasion that was overwhelming Border Patrol agents, fueling drug trafficking, and threatening the safety of American communities. Vance reserved some of his harshest criticism for the Biden administration's handling of the border crisis. He accused the administration of pursuing open border policies that were exacerbating the problem and endangering American lives. He called for a return to the policies of the Trump administration, which he argued had been effective in stemming the flow of illegal immigration. "We need to build the wall," Vance thundered, echoing the signature campaign promise of former President Donald Trump. He also called for increased funding for border security, a crackdown on sanctuary cities, and an end to catch-and-release policies. For Vance, border security was not just an immigration issue, it was a national security issue. He argued that terrorists and criminals were exploiting the porous border to enter the country, putting American lives at risk. His message resonated with the CPAC crowd, many of whom shared his concerns about the security of the border and the safety of their communities. Section 6. Fighting back against cultural leftism. Vance's speech was not just about policy prescriptions, it was also a call to arms in the culture war that is raging across America. He warned of the dangers of what he called cultural leftism, which he argued was infecting every institution in American society, from education to entertainment to corporate America. He accused the left of waging a war on traditional values, of trying to silence dissenting voices, and of indoctrinating children with radical ideologies. Vance pointed to the rise of critical race theory in schools, the push for transgender rights, and the censorship of conservative viewpoints on social media as evidence of the left's growing influence. "We are in a fight for the soul of our nation," Vance declared. He urged conservatives to stand up and fight back against the left's agenda. He called for a renewed emphasis on patriotism, faith, and family values. Vance's message resonated with the CPAC audience, many of whom felt under siege by the left's cultural onslaught. His speech was a call to action, a reminder that the culture war is not a spectator sport. It was a call to defend traditional values, to protect children from harmful ideologies, and to preserve the American way of life for future generations.